So there's not just gathering empirically the evidence, it's what are we going to do with this?
We know that we have 2 programs that are impacting 3rd grade reading and 1 8th grade math. So Reading Partners, which is a national program, we have 1,800 volunteers in Tulsa Public Schools, but we're going to need hundreds more, just an hour a week. So we're encouraging people to volunteer for Reading Partners, or if you happen to have math inclinations, the Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance has a math mentor program that is going to get kids kindergarten through 8th ready for math, higher math in post-secondary and in high school, so they can be ready for those great, good-paying STEM careers that exist right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Is this a generational problem then?
Multi-generational poverty impacts certainly kids' ability to have hope and to know that there are options for them. But I really think it's a community problem. We saw last week where they published a report that said there were more schools that were asked than ever before. Well, I've never met a teacher whose singular goal was anything other than making sure their kids achieved. And so saying a school is an A or an F doesn't help. No. But if the community says, how do we share responsibility for helping our kids be the best they can be, we're going to make a difference. In Cincinnati, where this new way of working together has been happening for a decade, they've increased math scores among all segments of their student population by 35%. But it takes a community. We all have to know we each have a role.
One, I think, and you haven't mentioned this and you may have looked at it, is the role of violence in our community and how that impacts education.
Well, absolutely. It impacts a kid's ability to learn. It impacts, literally, as you know, psychologically, it impacts a kid's ability to learn. Trauma impacts their ability to learn. And that's giving kids a safe environment, after-school programs, frankly, summer programs, which is when we see juvenile violence on the rise. And we also see kids slide back, kids who have moved forward in school. If they don't have enrichment in the summer, then they're going to start the next year back 1 month, maybe 2 months behind, and at some point become very frustrated. It's why we see many kids, where we lose most of our kids, many of our kids, is between 9th and 10th grade. And there just isn't a positive, there is unlikely to be a positive future for a child who we cannot help be graduated from high school. They are graduated from high school in Tulsa County. They fill out a financial aid form. They've got a 2-year college degree waiting for them, debt-free. You can call it Tulsa Tech debt-free. We provide great opportunities. We've just got to get those kids through the pipeline.
That's good. That's an excellent thing. Let me ask you something. Have you talked about restructuring or even just thinking about doing school a different way? As times have changed, I've noticed that some other cities are looking at doing high school differently, or even elementary, or just doing things a little bit different. How is that something that's needed in Tulsa to kind of come up with a different way of doing school?
Well, for example, our high school graduation rates in Tulsa range from in the Tulsa region, that's all of Tulsa County and Sapulpa, range from 42% to 99%. Some of the schools that are in districts that are at the 90 to 99% have changed the way they're approaching high school. They began getting connected with those 9th grade kids, and instead of having a different principal every single year, that principal literally travels with them from 9th through 12th grade, intervening if they have a trauma at home, or maybe they begin to develop an eyesight problem, and with our lack of screening and health care, no one knows. So really having those teachers take on and principals take on a role with those kids, but also having community members intervene and provide support to those kids who, through no fault of their own, may be in an environment that is not encouraging education.
Yeah, that's good. So go ahead.
I want to ask if you all have looked at the role of school counselors, because I'm public policy legislative chair for my professional organization, Oklahoma Counseling Association. We represent the licensed professional counselors and the certified school counselors in Oklahoma. And one of the problems in the schools is the school counselors are not doing their job. They didn't go to school. Their master's degree is not in scheduling classes and things like that. That's the role that some organizations want it to go in. I think most principals would agree that they don't like it this way. The school counselors aren't getting to spend time with the children. They're doing college enrollment, they're doing test administration, all those things. That would make a huge impact if the school counselors could actually do their job that they're trying to do.
Absolutely, and we hear that from schools all across the state, that counselors are inundated with paperwork and administrative duties, and if they could be part of the academic team that says, okay, in addition to Johnny not learning to read well, if that's happening because of this is happening in his life, how can we connect those services to help Johnny be in a position to better read?
One of the suggestions I would have is, I became an expert at college scheduling my children and myself in determining what they need to take. And I can administrate a test just as well as anybody. I can do all those things, and I'm not in that position. There's a lot of volunteers that are in reading partners and in the STEM program. There could be a total volunteer program of people who know how to do college advisement, how to do scheduling for kids, how their classes in high school. Those are the things that the counselors are. Test administration. Really, does it take a master's degree to administrate a test and to make sure nobody's cheating on it? No. So that, I would say, could be another form of volunteerism.
That's a great idea, and as we get through this spring and increase this financial aid completion, that's absolutely the next step that we need to take, because the other thing we find is that we have a high number of kids in poverty, first-generation college-goers, that do complete the FAFSA form, financial aid form, complete a college enrollment, and don't show up for the first day or don't persist past the first year. They need that continued mentorship. And again, that's where it takes a community. We can't just say to our educators, this is your responsibility, and if it doesn't work, we're going to hold it on you. Each of us has a role to play. And ultimately, even though I believe it's a moral responsibility, frankly, David Boren says it is economically unsustainable for our education system to continue the way it is currently. So we both have a moral and an economic responsibility to our community to step in wherever our talents lead